After the failure of the Bay of Pigs invasion in April 1961, the mood in Washington was a mix of humiliation, fury, and determination. The mission to overthrow Fidel Castro had collapsed in full view of the world. Cuba remained communist, aligned with the Soviet Union, and now emboldened. The young American president, John F. Kennedy, faced pressure from the CIA, from Congress, and from within to act again. But this time, it would be done in secret. The new strategy was not another invasion. Instead, it would be an all-out covert campaign to destabilize Cuba from within. Sabotage, psychological warfare, economic disruption, assassination plots. Nothing was off the table. This shadow war was called Operation Mongoose. It began in late 1961, spearheaded by Air Force General Edward Lansdale, a counterinsurgency expert known for his work in the Philippines and Vietnam. Lansdale reported directly to the highest levels. Attorney General Robert F. Kennedy was personally involved, obsessed with removing Castro. More than 400 CIA officers and agents were assigned to the task. Their goal was clear: help Cuba overthrow the communist regime, but do it without direct U.S. military involvement. What followed was one of the most extensive covert operations in CIA history. The tactics were vast and varied. Some were psychological: propaganda broadcasts, forged documents, efforts to spread dissent and confusion among the Cuban population. Others were economic, setting fires to sugarcane fields, contaminating supplies, sabotaging factories and power plants. CIA operatives and exiles trained in Florida and Latin America were infiltrated back into Cuba to work with resistance cells. But the most infamous element of Operation Mongoose was its obsession with assassinating Fidel Castro. From 1961 to 1963, the CIA devised more than a dozen different plans to kill him. They tried everything: a poisoned cigar, a toxic wetsuit, an exploding seashell. They worked with the mafia, specifically mobsters like Sam Giancana and Johnny Roselli, believing they had contacts in Havana. One plan involved hiring a lover to slip him poison. Another involved rigging a pen with a deadly hypodermic needle. Each plan was more bizarre than the last. None of them worked. Despite these efforts, Castro survived. He knew they were coming. His intelligence agency, the DGI, aided by the Soviets, was effective at sniffing out infiltrators and turning agents. The Cuban people, far from rising up, largely rallied behind him, especially after the Bay of Pigs and ongoing U.S. aggression. Still, Mongoose continued. CIA teams blew up industrial equipment. They attempted to incite sabotage by workers. They planted phony stories and tried to stage accidents. The goal was to create chaos and make Cuba appear unstable, both to its own citizens and to the world. By 1962, however, the stakes of this shadow war would explode onto the global stage. Fearing further U.S. attacks and possibly another invasion, Castro invited the Soviet Union to install nuclear missiles in Cuba. What followed was the most dangerous moment of the Cold War: the Cuban Missile Crisis. For 13 days in October 1962, the world stood on the brink of nuclear war. American U-2 spy planes revealed the Soviet missile installations. President Kennedy demanded their removal. Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev refused. The U.S. Navy imposed a blockade. In secret back channels, a deal was made. The Soviets would remove their missiles from Cuba, and the United States would publicly promise not to invade the island and privately agree to remove missiles from Turkey. In the wake of this near-apocalyptic standoff, Operation Mongoose quietly died. Officially, it was wound down in 1963. Politically, it had become too risky. The threat of a direct confrontation with Moscow had become all too real. After Kennedy's assassination in November 1963, the operation was never revived. But the legacy of Operation Mongoose lived on. It revealed just how far the U.S. intelligence community was willing to go in pursuit of regime change, deploying sabotage teams, conspiring with mobsters, and launching covert missions in a sovereign nation. It also cemented a deep mistrust between Cuba and the United States that would last for decades. For Castro, the plots only reinforced his grip on power. For the CIA, it was a blueprint, albeit a flawed one, for future covert action. And for history, Operation Mongoose stands as a testament to the shadowy front lines of the Cold War, where spies, lies, and sabotage replaced tanks and bombs. Sometimes, the most dangerous wars are the ones no one ever sees.